Thank you, everyone, for joining our March edition of our Power Platform User Group, which is, we're hosting it virtually since the pandemic, and we're hoping to open it up for a more hybrid and have an opportunity to meet people in person towards, the end of this year. But we'll share more details as we plan those logistics out. But today we have James Lewiston joining us as a guest speaker all the way from Portland, Oregon. He's a colleague and has been doing brilliant work on the Power Platform side of things. He's one of our primary hosts on the free app in a day events we host very frequently. And, he's bringing us all the insights and tips from his working experience with AI Builder and Power Apps. I'm super excited to have you on today, James.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna apologize to everybody in advance. Spring in Oregon means allergies for James. So if I sound pretty nasally, it's for a good reason.
Oh, no worries at all. I think, yeah, we can always, everybody's been through that, and it's something that we can work with for sure. Quick intros here. I'm Geeta Sivsalam. I am a practice lead focusing on Power Platform and Fusion Dev scenarios at Lantern, and I'm also business applications MVP. You can find me on LinkedIn or connect with me on any of the social media portals like Twitter. I'm always happy to share and help you guys in the best way I can. So feel free to connect with me. Then I have my colleague Ben, who is not on the call today, but he's a principal at Lantern, and we kind of co-host and organize our platform user groups locally. A quick overview of our agenda. We will go through some recent announcements and events that are happening locally in the area for those who may be interested, and then we'll hand it over to James to cover AI Builder controls and Power Apps, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. All right, let's take a look at our top announcements. I have about 3 announcements since the last time we met, which I kind of handpicked, which I think are game changers in the way we work with the tools in the platform. Number 1 being introducing inline actions in Canvas apps. So this is the first step in bringing rich tools for quick completion of tasks, like right at your fingertips within your Canvas Designer Studio. This is a new way to perform the most common authoring tasks, like directly in line within your Canvas app. So previously if you'd have to like change the layout of a screen, or you'd have to connect to a form or a gallery to a data, you'd have to go or know where to make these updates. Like you'd either have to go to the command bar or the properties pane or the formula bar. But now the product has these common actions that you would take, brought them into the controls themselves inline in an action bar. So it reduces both cognitive load and the number of mouse clicks that you would have to do. And so this provides a more streamlined and efficient way to work. And you can also use Copilot inline now. That's another feature as part of this action bar that we're getting. You're able to, that can help you write your PowerFX formula. You can use Copilot to, learn how to apply conditional formatting, sorting, and filtering your data. Just some examples there. And then it does appear where applicable. I don't think it does for all the controls yet, but it does appear in controls like the gallery, the data table, text input, drop down, combo box, and the text label. For now, these are the controls that are supported. You also have the ability to access the layout feature as part of this inline action experience on both modern and classic form controls. One thing to remember here is you have to have your form linked to a data source for this inline actions to light up. So once it's linked, the layout button appears in the inline actions, and then now you can use the layout option to select whether it's labels or inputs or how you want to arrange them vertically or horizontally. And you can, and also it works for screens as well. So you can pick, if you have a blank screen, you're able to pick what layout you would like for it inline. One other feature that I really like about this release is that it has the ability to add comments. So this will help more collaborative authoring. So comments will allow you to tag your peers or your team members in your app. You can ask questions, you can leave instructions, or even like propose next steps. So you can add and read those comments on the screen as well, and any control at a control level as well from these inline actions. So this is something, it hasn't hit my tenant yet. I haven't seen it yet, but this was just announced, late last week, I believe. So it should be coming out pretty soon. We should be seeing this pop up if you haven't already. All right, next up is pipelines for all. So if you've ever wanted to use deployment pipelines to deploy your solutions across environments, but you find it too complicated, or it's time consuming to set up, or you just don't know how to do it, or maybe you just want to follow best practices for application lifecycle management in a more efficient way, but you don't have an active admin role who's able to dedicate time just to set it all up, then this is a very helpful option. So makers can now create pipelines in environments that are not already using pipelines. So this whole pipeline creation experience will allow makers to name your own personal pipeline, and you can select a target environment. And you have to remember this is a managed environment feature, so your environment needs to be enabled as a managed environment. And that way you have your target environment identified, and that's what you have your access to import your solution into. And then when you save the pipeline creation process, then a very lightweight pipeline is created, and then now it's ready for you to leverage the benefits of pipelines, like not having to download zip files, or you don't have to upload things, but you can schedule deployments. You can have inline target environment solution validation. You're able to work with environment variables more efficiently. You can also record your deployment run history, and also leverage Copilot generated deployment notes. So, later on you can have an audit trail of what's happened. Now, here's who can benefit from this feature, right? One is makers who are currently manually exporting the solutions from your dev environments and trying to import it into a test or prod environment. You can now instantly benefit from pipelines, especially if they are enabled as managed environments. And then if you're an admin, this might be a feature that's it's not fully there yet. There are some additional features coming. This is currently in public preview, but as an admin, if you're wanting to set up pipelines the traditional way and you want to extend it to have approvals, you can. And this process of going from having a personal pipeline to a more governed, centralized pipeline will be made more efficient and easier by the end of next month, when this feature is scheduled to go generally available. So at that point, we should have a more streamlined and efficient way of doing pipelines coming our way. A couple of things to note here is there are a couple of prerequisites, right? Right now, you can have two environments that can be associated to a personal pipeline that you're creating from the pipeline page. So if you go to your solution and you look at you look at your pane on the left, you should see an option to click on pipeline, just like how you're seeing on this animated GIF that we have here. And all your environments that that you're wanting to use pipelines for should have Dataverse database enabled, or it should have that generated. And then all the target environments that are using pipelines must be managed environments. You cannot extend your personal pipelines in the sense only two environments, a source and a target, can be configured at this point. And then your personal pipelines cannot be shared with other users. So it's really one-to-one at this point in time. So that's definitely something that if you want to check out, you should give that a try. It accelerates how you have your deployment strategies in place. All right, next announcement that we have here is Power Effects and Desktop Flows. This is in preview right now. And for those who are very new to the platform, Power Effects is the low-code language. It's inspired by Excel, like syntax and formula, and it brings the capabilities of having logical expressions to the Power Platform. So it's very versatile. It's declarative, and it's designed for low-code makers and pro code developers. And this feature that we have announced this last week is the capability of having IntelliSense within the context of when you're building your desktop flows. So number one is syntax colorization. So you can actually have a very visually pleasing experience with your expressions that are color coded. So now, you have a more quicker and clearer distinction of what the components are. Like if you're setting a variable, and then you also have, while you're typing your Power Effects, formula, it'll provide you more context-aware suggestions. So it assists you with your expression synthesis, right? So it'll do your autocomplete functionality, and there's real-time suggestions going on. So it speeds up your process of building components. There's also a function signature helper, so you can get a quick overview of how these function parameters are required to be configured, and then how you can use it with respect to that field that you're working in. And then apart from that, there are two other features. One is a revamped variable picker. So what it does is it does have filtering and sorting capabilities, allowing for you to have a more intuitive way of selecting variables in the respective actions that you're trying to configure. And then there is the new function picker, which will allow you to scroll through a list of PowerFX functions. So you're able to provide, it'll give you a quick overview of the full list of available functions, and you're able to pick one from it. So it's just making it a lot more easier with these IntelliSense capabilities. So this whole idea of bringing PowerFX to the desktop flows is to empower all the makers, so to make them feel right at home, because you can now reuse all this knowledge from Excel formula when creating expressions. And if you've already been building Power Apps and you're using the same kind of pattern or coding framework, you can now bring that into your desktop flows as well. Those are the top 3 announcements that I had. I am going to just take a pause and see if we have any questions. Okay, and feel free to drop a question in the chat, or raise your hand. Always happy to take that at any point in time. All right, let's take a look at some events that are happening. So we have 2 events coming up. So the first one is NACS next, which is the North American Cloud and Collaboration Summit, which is happening in April in Dallas at the Irving Convention Center. This is part of the InnoTech conference, which is also happening around the same time frame. The North American Collaboration Summit group has joined hands with InnoTech, and now we have a more Microsoft-focused conference. So this will cover everything from Power Platform, Copilot, Teams, M365, and Azure. Whereas the InnoTech conference, which is the umbrella conference that's happening, it does, not just the Microsoft ecosystem, but it also covers Amazon and Google Cloud as well. And so I will be there. I have a workshop that I'd be hosting on, just the unleashing the potential of how you can use AI Builder and Copilot and apps and automate. So if you plan on attending, feel free to come stop by and say hello. I'd love to meet you all in person. The next event is a free event, which is called the North American Community Summit Roadshow. And so this is more like a for the user, by the user kind of experience on the road, which is pretty much like packing in a day sessions, which are organized by user groups and covering everything from Business Central, finance and operations, Dynamics, CRM, and Power Platform. So you'll see a lot of skinny versions of tips and tricks and tutorials, and I will be there as well. I do have another session that I will be presenting at this roadshow. So, and it's a free event, so you just I'll drop the links in the chat shortly. But if you're local and you'd like to come check it out, I'd love to. Just let me know, and I'd love to catch up with you all. All right. We are ready for James, and James, it's all yours. I can't wait to see what you've got to show us.
Thank you. Let's come on camera for a second. Wave hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. I am James Lewiston. I am with Lantern Studios in the Portland, Oregon-based studio. I'm actually in Southern Oregon myself, so I'm a couple hundred miles away, but I did live in Portland for 20 years. My main focus, as you might imagine, is low-code applications. This is, obviously Power Platform, but it also includes such, dinosaurs as SharePoint Designer, workflows, info platforms, which, yes, they're still a thing, Nintex Forms and Workflow. So today, Geetha reached out to me, and this is something we actually do. This is kind of a blown-out version of what I do as a demo in our App in a Day. So this is the free App in a Day Canvas and model-driven app training that Microsoft offers. We also do some very similar things in the automation in a day. So I have a real quick presentation I'll go through. And then because I'm do quite a few of these training events, I tend to always have a pattern of tell, show, do. So I'm going to sort of talk about them kind of, briefly. We're going to demo them, and then we're going to dive into how they're built and how they're configured and how they're different. So this is regarding the AI builder controls specific to Power Apps. So these fairly recently came out of preview. They are now general availability. There are 5 of them as pre-built AI builder job objects for Canvas apps. These can also be embedded in model-driven apps, but they are the business card reader, the receipt processor, the form processor, the object detector, and the text recognizer. And I will call out these 2, form processor and the object detector. These require you to build and train an AI model. And we'll look at those after I demo them. These 3 are what are called standard or default. They do not have any configurations that are required by the end user. You just drop them on there. So starting with the business card reader, this guy reads business cards, as you might imagine, and it does return its values as text. So we can then use them in forms or labels. Receipt processor is a probably more advanced version of the business card. This can basically scan and extract receipts. It also returns text, but it additionally returns tabular data. So it returns the subtotal and the line items as a table. The object detector. Oh, form processor. Looks like I have a typo in there. Sorry about that. So this is another type of processor. This does require a model. This is something we need to train, and I will go over how we do that. It can read from forms in multiple languages, and it can return objects as text, numeric, date, checkbox, or tabular. We have the object detector. Object detector can detect images in objects and location in images. Used for things like inventory management. One use case I saw that was pretty interesting is you could train it to recognize various industrial machines, and an inspector would come take a picture of it and would automatically provide a link to that particular model's manual. So I thought that was a pretty clever use of that. We have to train the object detector because, again, this is a custom model, and the results are returned as tabular data. And finally, we have the text recognizer. This is essentially optical character recognition. So it does return objects as a table, and we have a single text value. Well, not just a single, but kind of a single useful text value that can be returned inline into a label. So just a quick overview of what to do is I'm going to run through them all. I have little pre-built examples of each of these. I'm then going to dive into each of them about how they're built and configured, and then spend a little bit of time with the 2 custom models, our form processor and our object detector. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my sharing and dive right in. Okay, I'll make my screen nice and big. So as you can see here, I do have these in the context of a solution. As all of you on this call probably know, that is a best practice to build things in the context of solution. That's because we can use the solution checker, we can run deployment pipelines, all the good stuff that comes. So probably our most simple is the business card reader. I've got this guy in play mode. There we go. Trying to make the text a little bit bigger for you guys. So it's just a simple control. Idea would be this would be, most likely some type of mobile app. We'd scan a business card. Didn't take it too quick. Should have seen the image show up. There we go. And then we can just set all these values. We can just overload it with a different business card, so on and so forth. So the idea would be you go to a conference, you get a bunch of contacts, potential contacts. You could sit there and just scan them on your phone and automatically post these to, a Dataverse table, SharePoint list, wherever you want. I particularly like this example because this was in the day when having a website on a business card was not common, believe it or not. Okay, moving on, just scaling up in complexity a little bit. This is our receipt processor. So by that same token of our business card, I kind of imagine this use case would be something along the lines of a cell phone app where we would be at a conference or traveling and we had some meal receipts or whatever. And we wanted to automatically scan these and submit them automatically for reimbursement. So I'll pick a receipt to scan, make sure it takes. It didn't. Been a little bit slow today. There we go. So in the first example, we noticed it did not do any type of highlighting. And here we can actually see it's indicating, but it's not giving us any additional information, but it is indicating the items that it did recognize. So this is not configurable. We don't tell it what fields we want it to grab. It just grabs them automatically. So you can see we have a merchant, and our line items here, which is returned as a table. And then we can do things like subtotal and automatically create a tip. One thing I did notice about this, where it's not as smart as one would like, it doesn't handle when perhaps a line item has multiple sizes. So for example, lemonade comes, small or large. It did not recognize the secondary value. And again, because it is pre-built, this is nothing I can actually directly configure. Okay, moving up a little bit in complexity. Let's jump ahead to the text recognizer. This is our final pre-built model. So again, this returns tabular values, a page number, and the text. So I'm just going to grab something at random. How about this invoice? Probably not the best example for optical character recognition, but it will serve our purposes. And again, it has, there we go. So this one, we can see that these individual items are highlightable. So if I select one, so I have a table of all the text objects it recognized, and then it actually gives me the ability to click into those and select just the selected text. So again, we need to use our imagination about where this would be useful, because again, we use this type of OCR recognition quite a bit in Power Automate. In fact, we actually do that very similar example in automation in a day. So the final two that I will drill into them all is my form processor and my object detector. I'll go for the form processor first. So here we have some preset values. I can pull an invoice. Right, every time it makes me do it twice. So for our form processor, we actually train it. We use an example of the form and invoice we want to do. We get this question all the time. Can it do multi-page invoices? The answer is yes. You can create collections of documents inside of a model. But what I'd illustrate here is it's giving me a confidence. So it's telling me the field it grabbed, and it's giving me a confidence value of those fields. So it's saying, yeah, it's pretty confident that these are pretty accurate. And finally, our object detector. Let's go ahead and put this guy on play mode. So I'll detect an object. Microsoft was kind enough to provide a bunch of sample data. So when we do this, and I'll talk a little bit about this more when we build the model, is object detector requires 15 instances of each object you want to detect. And for accuracy, you can oftentimes need to use many more than that. So it does take a little bit longer to train than some of these other ones. Oh, wrong one. Let's go object detector. Test, and let's pick T. So much like our form processor, we do have a confidence score. It does think this is the green tea rose, this is the green tea mint, and this is the green tea cinnamon. And it's pretty confident about rose. it's relatively confident about green tea. It's not so sure about cinnamon. So that's an indicator to me that I would probably want to do some additional training. And I did notice that here. If I choose a different example, I'm getting 2 values for my green tea rose. So got a little bit confused here. Didn't recognize cinnamon this time. Pretty low confidence in these guys. This is an indicator to me that this model could use some additional training. Okay, that's how they work. Let's see how we build them. Let's start with the simple one. So it's just like any of the controlled Power Apps. We drop it on and configure it. So we can see here that we have my business card reader. I went ahead and renamed it. Then I added a bunch of labels for these various objects. If I want to build another one, I'll just do that real quick. I'll insert an object. These are in my AI builder controls. Yes, they are all premium. It's been my experience, and I hope Microsoft doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but all the really cool stuff is premium features. It's letting me know that. So again, I have my business card reader. I don't have a lot of options here from a configuration standpoint. Got some color, but I really have not much else I could do. And that's a long name because we think it's a best practice to always rename our controls. I'll give that guy a shorter name. And then I'll add a label. Oops, that's too small. That text is pretty small. Let's go 20. Let's do this a little bit. And when I when I use one of these objects, it exposes all the available values via the dot syntax. So I'm just going to use a simple operator. And I'm going to call this guy BCR2. And you can see here all the available values. So this is all the information I can grab about this one. I'm just going to pick full name. And then scan another business card. And again, you can put them on labels. You can bind them directly to forms. I think one example I'd like is bind this directly to a Dataverse contact table to automatically create contacts from your cell phone. So that is our business card reader. So pretty simplistic, right? Not a lot of options. Just pick what you want and then drop it on, then use it how you want. You see processor, just a little bit different, only because it's a mix and match between tabular data and inline data or strings of text. So again, pretty simple return types. Works the same way, has no configurations. And the only real difference here is in the table, my purchased items. So one of the little tips I have found with working these objects is when it's not working the way you expect, it will actually tell you the return type of something. So I could just say, just going to make it simple. And we see processor. What's the items? Purchase items. It's going to fail. Why am I getting an error? This is a tabular data type. So I add a table. There is no data source. I bound it to my object and then the tabular return type. And then I chose the columns I wanted to return. So I only have one additional one that I'm not using now. Something like that. And again, I can just run it inline. Now, because it's tabular data, I couldn't directly post this as easily as single line items. I would have to go through some type of for each process to drill through all those if that's the information I want to capture. Another interesting thing I noticed about this is it does not create a collection that's available to you. Even though this is internal inline saved data, we can only address these items directly by addressing the results of the object. So there's my receipt processor. And again, we can just do simple formulas to do something like receipts. Got a little 20% there. Okay, I'm going to leave this guy. We have a final is my text recognizer. This is my final object that does not have a model behind it. I'll go ahead and you can see, again, this return type is tabular data. I go to the results, then I go to the fields. Again, the data source is a result of the object's name and the dot syntax of the results tabular object. If I want to add some items and add a field, all I have is bounding box. It's the only additional field I can grab. So if I want to get something more robust, do I have anything more robust? That's too big. See what it does here. This might break it. This is a 13-page document. So this one may take a while to scan. But let's see if it chokes. Might as well put it through its paces. Oh, so far so good. So I can go through the various pages. And again, I can see the text. You can see it's not blocking the text. It's treating every single line of text as a string object. So that's it. Those are our 3 default AI builder models. So our other 2, if we look at how they're built, our form processor, much in the same way. For this one, I'm only returning text data, so I don't have to worry about tables. But what I do have to do when I select my object, there's my form. I have to use an AI model associated with it. Yeah, it's not going to work without this. Same thing with the object detector. Well, what's that mean? Well, because I'm in a solution, my first thought is, why don't I just add an AI model? I have to add existing. What about adding a new one? I can't build them here. I can build one I've already configured, but I can't add an object from the solution. I can't create the AI builder model from the solution itself. AI models are environment specific. So what I want to do is I want to go to the AI hub. I want to take a look at one called my form processor model. When we do these, we do a number of steps. And I'll go ahead and edit this guy. So we'll go through what those steps are. So the first thing we do is we define the fields we want. And if this applies to a multi-page form as well. I would define all the values I want to grab off every page of whatever that form happened to be. This one happens to be a structured document, i.e. an invoice, but I would want to know all those values up front. I'm going to define them all and I'm going to give them a type. So I've got them defined here. As you can see here, I can add number fields, state fields, checkboxes, tables, et cetera, et cetera. I create collections. If I had a secondary document, perhaps it's a 3-page invoice, I would create 3 collections. Each collection requires a minimum of 5 examples of the invoice. I believe the maximum is 20, but I could easily be corrected on that one. So just like in our image processor, when we're seeing a model that's not really as accurate as we would like, the general advice and best practice from Microsoft is add more examples, make it smarter. And it will actually get smarter the more you use it. So I have my collections of documents. I'm going to add them. And you can see here, I have 5 documents. Now I've already tagged these. What we're going to do is for each document, you have your text fields here that you want. I can go ahead and just delete this one. So this is going to be my bill to. So I can just select what it wants, or I can grab it, and then I tag it. You can see here some of these things you can do. Not available in document, not available in collection. I would just ignore the various tags. So, for example, I had a bunch of data that was at page 2. I would just tag that as not available. So I repeat this process 5 times. I tag everything. Oh, shoot up here. I tag everything. Make sure it looks right. Looks good. Next. Looks good. I have 5 examples. This is meets requirements. I'll go ahead and trade it. So this does happen pretty quick. I am seeing, I will check the chat window real quick. Perfect, thank you. I can go into details. And I can see here the accuracy score is nice and high. This is what I want to see. I want to see a nice high score. Before I use this, I can test it. I can choose my invoice. And again, because my AI model is part of the environment, I can call this from any other item in the environment. I can call this from PowerApps, anything else I consume the AI motor objects, and use this same model. This invoice. Must have closed that prematurely. But before I leverage this model, I'm going to want to test it. And I'm going to see that's my bill to, nice high confidence. Nice high confidence. All looks good. So now I would publish this model and go ahead and use it. So we're still in the AI Builder Hub. I'll just go back here. Let's go to the beginning. I can do that. Let's take a look at the object detection model. Works in much the same way. Just requires more examples. Now this one is probably because it needs additional training. Now I don't know why it's saying unrealistically high, but let's go ahead and edit and see how we configure this guy. Just like with our 4 processors, we define what we want to grab first. So I wanted to grab teas of 3 different flavors. So I told him what my names were. Here's my, and I can also choose common scenarios. And I can't really mix and match these. I pretty much have a good idea for, if I wanted some kind of mix and match, I would actually probably leverage more than one model. But I'm going to choose common objects. And then I'm going to define them, all the ones I want. And then I'm going to train it. And again, for each one of these guys, I decided that was green tea mint. And there's a lot of these. You can see can be kind of time consuming, but again, we train the model. And we get a confidence score, and then we test it. Now, because it's giving me some results that I don't think are accurate, I would want to continue training it until I had a higher level of confidence. So this one, pre-team it, nope, that was a fail. That is pretty much it. That is the overview of our controls available. There are 5 of them. 3 of them are essentially pre-built. You drop them on there, you use them. 2 of them you actually need to train. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing and open the floor for questions, comments, anything. Feel free, weigh in, please do.
Hey, James, thank you so much for walking through each of those controls. I love how, AI Builder kind of abstracts away all the infrastructure configuration for people. You don't have to worry about spinning up resources in the cloud or, having to configure any or do any administrative tasks. It just makes it so much more easier to just leverage a very user-friendly and intuitive UI to set up your AI models just by tagging stuff on documents. And then, you also, have the ability to look at analytics on how well your models are performing. And then you all have all these controls that use these predefined models. You really are just leveraging what you can, and that's what you pay for as part of the premium license.
Yeah, agreed. They have really done a great job of democratizing because again, behind the scenes, there's a lot of AI, a lot of things going on, especially with the image detector about how it's deriving its guess. And from an end user, you don't have to do that. You just have to go, that's a cat, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a cat. And then just wash, rinse, repeat until you have a model that you're happy with. Now, are they perfect out of the box? No. I have not used one significantly enough because it is supposed to be self-aware and self-trained. I'd be really curious about how they actually achieve that. But especially for the form processor, it's been very accurate. They can even from like the text recognizer, you can train it to understand handwritten text for one of the freeform ones. So that's
Mhm.
by no means all the models we can do. I highly encourage you, if you are interested, to go explore all the AI. It's in the AI hub right here. I would explore all those models. Oh, I'm not sure. Sorry, it's in the AI hub in your environment. Microsoft has done a great job of both describing them and giving lots of resources about how to configure them, how to build them, how to use them. Like, kudos to Microsoft for sure about all the effort they're putting into these tools.
And there's also, a fully built out document intelligence solution that, where you can process invoices and it, all you have to do is just upload your template for invoices. And then you have this package solution which has all your flows, your that will automate the extraction of data using the AI Builder models. Then you also have a Power App, a Canvas app on top of it that can allow you to view the extracted data and review them. And if you want, you could extend that solution. So you have a ready to use plug and play solution that they've, packaged for us as a Kickstarter for you to, use a template and then extend it. So that's a great way for you to kind of, poke around and see how things are to be built or how to use these controls and actions and then, extend it based on your use case.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones we see most commonly from a use case is somebody submits a document to a SharePoint library. Document automatically kicks off a Cloudflow. Cloudflow calls the AI model, processes it, extracts meaning, and then either submits it for an approval, like, hey, I knew something has come from someone. Does this look okay? Then it automatically pushes it to another SharePoint list, a Salesforce.com instance, Dataverse, use your imagination. And I see that. I'm like, that's a real tangible benefit of taking the boring automation and making the computer do it rather than having a person go through and cut and paste and miss a field, and you really
Yeah.
can see dramatic gains in efficiency and just, I mean, I think I read a quote somewhere that said, I don't want to live in a world where computers doing repetitive, boring, mind-numbing tasks and computers are doing generating art, writing poetry, and music. I'm like, that's fun. That's backwards. We're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
that part. You do the boring stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I think with the AI builder, I mean, it uses Dataverse, which is the native storage, right, for the platform. So, it already spins all of that up for you, like setting up the tables and entities that you need to store anything that's related to. Because when you train the model and all of that data, it goes somewhere in the cloud where it's already configured for you. But and James, you can correct me, but you're not limited to just leveraging data versus your data source, right? It's
Not at all.
still,
Any data
yeah, it's just a
source.
feature. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you can
yeah.
extend it.
Once it comes out of the pipe, that's either it's just plain text or number or date, or the only challenge is, and it's not really a challenge, it's just understanding when you have a table, you're gonna have to figure out how to iterate through it and create a relationship, right? Because you're gonna have that parent child of item sub item. But
Yeah.
these are real common problems. You could post the whole thing as like a blob into a single, but I think a more common scenario would be, rather than posting all that to, via a form or the sort of the tabular data, you would just associate that with the parent ID. And again, these
Yep.
are all, I mean,
For sure.
it,
Yeah.
it's kind of
And
up to your imagination. I originally kind of struggled with the Power Apps portion of this. Then I realized if I get my head out of thinking everyone sits in front of a keyboard for their job, some people have a tablet and they're walking around a factory floor, for example, or whatever they happen to be
right.
doing. You know, then it makes a
Yeah, for
ton of
sure.
sense. It makes a ton of sense to have this little mobile thing where you can just take a picture of something, have it post-processed, and then somebody come back and goes, "Oh, that's a model G78. You got to be careful because the switch is backwards on that one."
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it has a lot of potential with this whole, AI hub and being able to leverage all these existing models, and you're not limited to just, there are other, GPT actions as well that they introduced, right, with prompting and things like that. That's part of the AI builder actions in Power Automate. So if you don't really have a need for, doing any of these entity extraction or document intelligence, you're also able to leverage the GPT actions in Power Automate as well, which was something that was introduced or announced last, I think, in February. Um, so there's a brand new set of actions that have come out in Power Automate that are part of AI Builder packaged for you, where you can leverage. You just need to have the AI Builder capacity. Anyone have any questions, thoughts, or comments? Feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to drop a question in the chat, you can do that as well, or you could, just raise your hand. I thought I saw a couple of you, maybe starting to type something. I just wanted to open the floor up for you guys to, ask questions. It's open forum. Right. If we don't have any questions, I do have a QR code that I pulled up from sharing my screen right here. So if any of you are not part of the user group and you'd like to be on the know on our next upcoming events and whatever we have planned for the rest of the year, do feel free to join the user group, and you can always connect with me, or you can follow the Twitter handle there. We'll be sure to share our the logistics around the next events. We are looking to host one every month. It's either on a Tuesday or a Thursday, usually towards the end of the month, and we often look to get either product or engineering teams from Microsoft, or subject matter experts in the community, or if any of you have an interest in speaking at the user group, I'd be very happy to have you all, share. It could be a tip or a trick, or if you want to share recent news, it could be anything. If there's something that you would want to, use this portal to show off all the brilliant work that you're doing, I'd love to have any of you join. And if you have feedback on content that you would like to see or you'd like to hear more about, do feel free to drop me a note, and I'd be happy to, collaborate on that. But as always, thank you all for taking the time to join us on a weekday evening. And we are always very appreciative of all the support that you have and that you provide for the user group. And I hope to see you all next time. And James, thank you so much again for
Oh, thank
taking
you
the
guys
time
for
to
inviting
share.
me. I hope you found something useful, and hope you dive into that and start exploring that for yourself. Cheers all.
All right. Thanks, everybody.